Okay, so hello again. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Philip Edu. I'm one of the methodology experts, and today I'm going to talk about qualitative analysis and also emphasizing on coding and categorizing your data. And so this is how the presentation is going to be like. During the presentation, the middle of the presentation, what I will do is I'll take a break a little bit for you to ask me any question that you have, and then I continue on, and I'll be happy to address any question that you have as we go on. So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and talk, or you can type in your question, and I think I'll be happy to address them for you. So let's start. And also, I just want to acknowledge my colleague, Dr. Kuba Glazek. He did a great presentation yesterday concerning quantitative analysis, and also, being able to be aware of your variables, and also thinking about the appropriate statistical analysis that you have to use. So thank you, Kuba, for your great presentation yesterday. So let me start by giving you information about, what data analysis is all about. As you can see the quote here, it is about reducing data without losing the meaning. So what you are doing is you want to reduce the data. Why do you want to reduce the data? Because you don't want to present all the information to your audience. It will take a lot of time for you to do that, and they will be bored for you to present the stories of participants. So it's very important for you to think about reducing the data in a meaningful manner, but making sure that there is a connection between the data that you have collected and also the findings, and also the findings are addressing your research question. So what I will do right now, I have to mute everybody so that I will not get any feedback. So let me mute everyone. Let's see. Okay, so when I am ready to receive questions, I'll unmute everyone so that I will not get any feedback. So qualitative analysis is all about data reduction. So at the end of the day, the findings should represent the data that you have collected. And at the same time, the findings should address the data that you have addressed your research question. And one thing that you have to also think about is in analyzing your data, you always start with coding. You code the data, you categorize the data, and sometimes you come up with themes, and especially those who are doing granite theory, you come up with theory to explain the phenomenon that you are focusing on. So this is just a brief picture of what I'm going to talk about. So if you forget about what I'm going to present, don't forget about this. Data analysis is all about reducing data but not losing the meaning. Okay, so this is just information about the outline concerning what I'm going to present. So I'm going to give you information about the meaning of coding, the essence of coding, the coding process, the things that you have to think about before you start your data analysis, and also, what you have to do in choosing the right coding methods, and also the coding cycles. I'm going to talk about that. And last but not the least, I'm presenting your findings. How do you present your findings? And then the last one, if we have time, I'm going to also give you an example of how, I analyze a data, and just to give you an idea about, how you're going to analyze your data, and one way of doing that. Let me see whether I have some questions I think some of you are typing in some question. Oh, okay. It's about a technical issue, so maybe we'll do it later. Talk about it later. Okay, so what I'm going to present is most of the information comes from this book, The Coding Manual for Qualitative Researchers. It's a very, very good book, and it gives you information about 32 coding methods or strategies, and it gives you examples for you to, so that in case you choose one of the coding methods, you'll be able to use it for your study. And so I recommend that if you are doing qualitative study, I recommend this book for you. And so this is all about the book. And then what is coding? Coding is all about assigning labels. So you go out and you collect data from participants, you collect their stories, and what do you do about it? You look through the transcript and identify most important information and try to label them. You label it. You assign labels to that. So that's all about coding. You assign words, you can assign a word, a phrase, a sentence to represent a certain aspect of the data. So at the end of the day, you want to capture the meaning or the essence of the data. So it's very important for you to know or understand what coding is all about. And the next one is the essence of coding. Why? Why do we have to code? What is the meaning? Why should we do the coding? The essence is, as already said, is to reduce data, but not losing the meaning. You are capturing the important information so that you'll be able to gather information to address your research question. The next one is to understand a phenomenon. Let's say there's an issue that you want to address in your study. So you collect data from participants. So after collecting data, you have to do the coding and then get information so that you'll be able to understand the phenomenon that you are focusing on, the area of interest that you are focusing on. And the next one is to also, it helps you to construct, develop a construct. How do we develop a construct? So by labeling the important statement, you categorize them and develop themes. Based on that, you'll be able to develop constructs that will help you to maybe in the near future, when somebody wants to measure the variable, they'll be able to measure the variables because you have been able to identify the concept, especially if you are focused on something that area that the concepts are not all that clear. It always makes sense for you to start by doing a qualitative study so that you identify a specific concept, and then you do a quantitative study to measure the variable or the concept that you have identified. So lastly, especially those who are doing granted theory, the essence of using coding is to develop a theory, or a model to explain the phenomenon that you are studying. So these are the essence of coding. Before I start by talking about the coding process, let me open the, give you the chance to, in case you have any question for me, let me unmute all of you. Do you have any question before I go further? Okay. Any question for me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I just had one question. Could you say the name of the book again?
Yes, I can go back right now. And also you can even email me and I'll send you the PowerPoint. It's the Coding Manual for Qualitative Researchers. And if you email me, I can send you this PowerPoint just to help you to get that information. Any other question for me? Okay. I think this means I'm doing the right thing because, yeah. And also, if you email NCADE, we will forward all the information that you need concerning our presentation to you. So, thank you, Kuba. Okay. So let me mute you guys again and continue the presentation. Okay, so the coding process is very important for you to understand this one. It's so important. Somebody's asking, is there something that is, let me look at it one. Is there something that is a ongoing issue with coding? Can you explain further about this question? Let me unmute you, Venita, so that in case you can, let me see, looking for, okay. Yes.
Yes. So my question is there something about coding that traditionally researchers make mistakes with? Because we discuss coding, or coding keeps getting mentioned, and it seems like this mysterious process. So is there something that you repeatedly see that researchers make mistakes with coding?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes is that they don't really specifically give audience or readers about how they arrived at their themes or the categories. When it comes to qualitative, because it's not like quantitative where you can do a statistical analysis, you can use SPSS to do ANOVA or t-test, and if you give the same data to me, I can do it and get the same result. When it comes to qualitative, it's quite different. I always say that qualitative analysis is just like an art. You are designing something, and because you are designing something and your background influence the analysis, your previous information and your biases can influence how you even code the statement. How you code might be very different from mine. So how do you make sure that the information that you are presenting to your audience are credible or are believable? You have to show them how you arrived at the findings. And then, so what I've realized is that some of them, they don't even talk about the coding strategies that they use. And I'm going to talk about the coding strategies. They don't talk about the number of code they identified. They didn't talk about how they sorted how they sort their data. And if they do that, people will not really understand how they got to maybe the themes that they have. So it's some
So,
is
so
mhm,
So is
yeah.
it almost like using an instrument to measure quantitative that the researchers made up themselves? So not using an established measure instrument. It's sort of like that, but they're
Ye-
not giving enough details about
Yeah.
how the coding was developed. So it's become subjective.
Yes, when it comes to quantitative, qualitative, it's all about subjectivity. So that's why always you have to let participants know or readers know about your background and what is the connection between you and the phenomenon that you are focusing on, because it influences how you even code. And people say that as a qualitative researcher, you are an instrument because you determine even how you're going to ask your questions when you go and speak to your
Mm.
participant. You determine how you're going to the strategy that you have to choose for you to use for analysis. So you have the determination, but there should be mechanism should be put in place so that your information will be believable, your information will be
Mm.
credible. And that is that's what we are not seeing, especially for dissertation documents. You know, students say that, oh, I identified this code, but if you ask them, how did you arrive at the codes, or how did you arrive at the categories, did you develop the theory, they have no idea. So it's always important for you to be clear so that you'll be able to defend the findings that come up concerning how you analyze your data. So thank you so much for your question. Do you have any other questions for me?
Oh, not now. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So we can move. Let's move further. Let me mute everybody again, and then we go and talk about the process. Okay, so this is how you're going to think about the process. Let's look at it this way. You went to participants, you collected raw information from them, you collected specific stories from participants. You collected something that is so peculiar with a specific group of people. And then what you have to also think about is how do you code, how do you label the statement so that the information that you are going to come up with are credible. So this is how you do it. So you start by coding the statement, and the next stage after coding the statement, you code means that you are apportioning or you are labeling the statement that you collected from participants, or maybe if you collected an artifact or a document, you are just giving labels to them. And the next one is sorting. Sorting means that you are just grouping them, putting them into groups. After you have labeled them, you're going to have about maybe 20 labels or 30 labels or 100 labels. You have to sort them. Sort them means grouping them based on their relationship, based on whether they are related or based on the frequency. And I'm going to talk more about the frequency of the codes. And after sorting, after grouping them, you can synthesize them. You try to put the pieces together. After getting categories, you put pieces together. It's so important. And then the next one is to theorizing. I find it very difficult to mention this. You develop a theory based on the categories or the themes that you have developed. You develop a theory. Most of the time when you are using granite theory, that's where you have to reach. If you are doing, let's say, phenomenology, you can do coding, sorting, and maybe synthesizing. But if you are doing granite theory, because you have to develop a theory or a model, you have to also go to the last stage. So this is just a big picture about the coding process. So you have to learn how to code your data, learn how to sort your data, learn how to put the pieces together so that you develop a theme. And as you can see here, from specific information that you are collecting from participants, as you are going to sorting and synthesizing, you are going to abstract information. You are getting concepts that are quite abstract. And this is where the people make mistakes because they are developing abstract. At the end of the day, sometimes there's no link to the data that you have collected. So you have to make sure that the abstract information that you have developed can be linked to the data and also can be used to address your research question. So we'll talk more about it as we go on. I think I can see a question here. Let's see. Dr. Eddie, do you say levels? Can you explain that a little bit? Can you talk about that, your question concerning your topic? What do you mean by levels? Let me unmute you.
Hi.
Yes. Hello.
Am I causing the echo? Okay, good. Better.
Yes.
I thought I heard you say level when you were talking about coding. Did I hear that right, or did I hear it incorrectly?
Maybe I said maybe I said level somewhere. But the thing is that we can also say levels or cycles. I'm going to talk about coding cycles a little bit when we are going forward. But this one is just a process. So we can also say levels. So the first level is coding. The second level is sorting what you have coded, like grouping them. The third level will be synthesizing, and the fourth level is developing a theory based on that. So we can look at it based on levels too. So thank you for your question.
No. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. I know that I have to be fast a little bit so that I'll be able to present everything to you. So before you start coding, what do you have to think about? What do you have to consider? As I already said, your influence. As a qualitative researcher, you are going to influence this. You bring in with your background, your beliefs, and your biases, and your interests, your philosophical paradigm. All these things are baggage that can influence how you code your data. So it's so important for you to be aware of your background. Know who you are. Know how your beliefs, your perceptions might influence even what you are studying. And so before you do the analysis, you have to think, you have to reflect concerning your beliefs, your interests, and all the things that might influence how you're going to analyze the data. And because you have to go there with clear mind, with no preconceived idea about the topic. You go in there with that. And then the second step is to bracket it. Try as much as possible to put it in a box. Try as much as possible not to allow your beliefs to influence the analysis. I think it's going to be a little bit challenging because, as I said, because we see ourselves, qualitative researchers see ourselves as an instrument, your past experience will impact how you analyze your data. But if you are aware of that, you'll be able to control it a little bit so that you go there with objectivity a little bit. And if you go there with objectivity, you'll get rich information as you do the analysis because you are not going to choose an important statement from the transcript that you think is important to you, but you're going to choose statements that you think will help you to address your research question. So it's so important to be aware of your influence and also bracketing your influence, trying to put them in something like maybe a box so that you not allow it to influence how you analyze your data. The second thing that you have to focus on is also memoing. Memoing is all about documenting personal reflection and impression. You can do that during the data collection. When you are collecting data, what are your thoughts concerning what you are observing? It's very important to keep all the information down because it's always good to go back and reflect about what we were thinking about when we were collecting your data. It's so important. Data analysis can also impact how you're going to review how you're going to analyze your data. Somebody's asking about whether data analysis can impact your literature review. It can do that because the literature review informs even the kind of question that you have to ask participants because you are reviewing the literature and you identify a gap in the literature, and identifying the gap in the literature, you develop the purpose of your study, and then you develop a research question, and then you develop your interview questions, the question that you're going to ask participants. So everything should be shaped by the literature review. So the literature review can impact how you're going to analyze your data. It's very important. So during the data collection process, you have to also think about the best way of recording your information, your personal reflection, and your impression is so important. And the second phase is when you are analyzing your data. This is the most important part because when you are analyzing your data, it's more of high-level mental process. It takes a lot of time. You think about this important statement and you think about, okay, so now I've identified what participants said about this. What kind of label should I give to that statement? It's a lot of mental work. So it's very important to really document your thoughts so that at the end of the day, after you have done everything, you can go back and reflect on it, and it can even help you when you are presenting your findings, so that you'll be able to interpret the data. So it's very important for you to do that. So somebody's asking a question here. Let's see. I think what I would do is Kuba, can you help me so that I will not waste a lot of time? If you can look at the questions, and then I'll mute you for you to unmute you for you to ask the question on behalf of um, the audience. I think that would be great. If you can do that for me, that would be great.
Sure. So you have a question about when is it appropriate to incorporate the memo and use it in Chapter 4, specifically what chapter in the dissertation?
Oh, so what you have to think about is memoing. We don't incorporate everything in your in Chapter 4. You incorporate it maybe in Chapter 5 when you are doing interpretation, when you are interpreting your data, or you are interpreting your findings, because when it comes to chapter 4 interpretation, it's like what you think about the findings. So that is where memoing will be so beneficial. Any other?
And there's a second question, and I'll mute myself right after this so there's no echo.
Oh, okay.
But there's a question about, can you talk about differences between IPA and grounded theory, specifically how coding might be different and how research bias impacts it?
What is IPA? Is it something related to phenomenology?
It's a phenomenological approach.
Oh, okay.
I stands for, oh shoot, I know this.
Yeah, something like intuitive or something. Interpretive. Yeah, yes, interpretive. Oh, yes. So phenomenological approach. So it's all interpretive phenomenological analysis is more like it comes under phenomenology. So the difference is that for the grounded theory, you go beyond just synthesizing and then developing a model or a theory to explain the phenomenon that you are focusing on. So that's why it's even called grounded theory. Phenomenology is more about capturing the experience of participants, or trying to understand, capturing the experience of participants, and also trying to capture the essence of that experience, the meaning behind that experience. You are interpreting the meaning behind that experience. So you will reach the stage where you develop maybe categories or categories, or what do we call it? Themes, yes. Develop themes to help you to really understand the phenomena that you are focusing on. But for grounded theory, you go beyond having themes and developing maybe how the themes are related to each other. Is one causing the other? Can we develop a theory for us to explain? So that is all about that. Oh, okay. So let me go ahead and move to the next one, because I have a lot of things that I have to talk about and the time is running out. So another thing that you have to think about when you're going to start, analyzing your data is whether you have to use manual or electronic coding. So the manual coding, in terms of the tools, we have you can use the pen and a pencil to do that. So this means that you can print out the transcript from participants and then use pencil to maybe highlight or underline the important statement and then label it. You code it by using pen and pencil to do that. And you can also use notepad, and that's old-fashioned. You write the notes or the label on the notes so that you know that, okay, this one is referring to this kind of information from participants. And then we can, in modern times, you can use your computer, Microsoft Word, to do that. Let me show you quickly how to use it. So let's say you want to code this statement, right? Code relevant statement. I want to code it. So you highlight it and you go to review, and then you go to comment, and then you code it, right? This is another way of manual coding. And another way of doing it is go to reference, and let's say I want to code this question. So I go to reference and I click on EndNote, and then I code it. So you can see that when I code it, the information will come here. So that is the two main ways of coding using Word. So as you can see here, let me make it bigger for you. So as you can see what I did here, I was coding a statement and I use the comment function to do the code. But you can also use the reference and insert an EndNote to do that too. So this is all about Word. And also you can use Excel to do that. You can put your data in Excel and start the coding. And for the electronic one, we have many types of software that you can use. One of them is Vivo. Another one is Atlas TI, and you can you can choose one of them and use it for your analyzing your data. When it comes to usability, as you all know, paper and pencil one or using Word is so easy because we already know how to use Microsoft Word. But for the electronic one, you have to be familiar. You have to familiarize yourself with the tool. So let's say if you are using Atlas TI, so you can go to YouTube and get instructional videos on how to use Atlas TI, and they will show you how to enter your data into the system, do the coding yourself. Let me give you some misconception about code using electronic code, the software. Some people have the perception that the system or the software will code the data for you. No, the software will not code the data for you. There's human intelligence that you have to apply. This means that the software will just give you will help you to organize the code, but you have to label it. You have to give a label to the statement that you are coding. So it's very important for you to be aware of that. When do you have to use it? When you have small data, you don't have to have a software. You can use the manual coding. But if you have a large data, it's very important for you to use the software. And organization too is very time consuming for you to use manual coding, because sometimes you have to go back. Maybe if you are using the Microsoft Word, you have to go back to maybe the earlier pages to see the kind of code that you gave to a certain statement, and then it takes a lot of time for you to look for that code. But for the electronic one, you can easily search for that information, and also it can give you information about the frequency concerning the data. The frequency is more of how many times a code is assigned to specific information in the data. So maybe a specific code like maybe anxiety can be assigned to about 20 statements. So the 20 statement is called the frequency, because it's giving you a number of times a certain code is used to assign to. So for easier use and the time wise, I recommend that you have to use the electronic coding for your data analysis. Let me open Kuba. Do anybody have any question for me?
There's actually just a question that came in. Do you recommend using electronic coding for small data sets? And then there's a follow-up.
Okay, so if you already have the software and you know how to use it, it always makes sense for you to use the electronic coding. But if you don't have the software and you have to go and buy it, and then the data is small, to save money, you can use the manual coding. So it depends on your situation. Any
and
other?
the follow-up question is, can you provide a definition of what constitutes?
I didn't hear the last part. Yes.
Can you provide some definition or some guidelines about what should be?
Oh, what should be coded?
No, what should be considered small versus large to make the
Oh,
decision of
yes,
what?
it's so relative. Relative. Okay, so let's say you are focusing on only maybe 5 participants, or you are focusing on 8 or maybe 10 participants, and each of the transcript is about maybe 3 or 4 pages. I think I consider it as a small data. But maybe if you are focusing on maybe 5 or maybe 20 participants, and then each of the transcripts is about 5 pages, it's a lot of pages. So I consider it as a large data. Also it's really relative. Maybe what's large to me will be small to you, and what is small to you to be. But just I advise that the good if you have access to electronic coding, electronic software, I think that is the best way. But if you don't have access and you have a small data, I think you can use, the manual one. Okay, so let's move to the next one. So this one is just, when you email NK, we can send you the PowerPoint. This one is all the information about the software that are around. You just can just explore and choose one of them that you think it's okay for you, and you can go to YouTube and get instructional information about how to use the software. Okay, so we have talked about coding strategies that you have to use, and the next thing that we have to think about is what code. We talk about coding process. The next thing that we have to talk about is what coding method can you use for your study. Before you choose the coding method, let me give you an overview about the kind of coding strategy that we have. Before I talk about coding strategies, we have the process has been divided into 3. We have the first cycle coding methods, or the first cycle coding, and after the first cycle coding, and then the second cycle coding. The first cycle coding is where you have your data and you identify the code and you're starting coding, right? Based on the coding strategy that you have identified. The second cycle, after the first cycle coding, this is where you sort the data. You categorize it and develop categories and types based on the relationship between the codes, right? So for phenomenology and other approach, you will stop at the after you have developed themes and categories. But those who are doing granite theory, you have to go to the second cycle coding, where we talk about the pattern coding, focus coding, actual coding, and also theoretical coding. So it all depends on the approach. If you are not using granite theory, then you start with the first cycle and end with after the first cycle coding. You have your categories and you have your types, and you are done. Right. So the first cycle coding, I got it from the book that I recommended. They have about 32 coding methods, and so I have identified about 10 that are most people use. So we have an attribute code and descriptive code. Don't worry about the definition or what the code is all about. I just want you to know the kinds of code that are under the first cycle coding. And I'm going to talk more about it when we go further. Okay, so then the question is, based on the code, the first cycle coding, the code that we have, how do you make sure that maybe attribute code is the right coding strategy for me, or narrative coding is the right coding strategy for me, or process coding? It all depends on your research question. What is your research question? Before I talk about the research question, I just want to give you brief information about, we have 2 main types of research question. We have exploratory research question and confirmatory research question. The exploratory means that you are exploring. It's more of open-ended, and it's more of a qualitative when you are doing a qualitative study, right? And confirmatory research question is more of a close-ended, like, is there any relationship between anxiety and maybe what kind of variable? Anxiety and willingness to forgive. So is there any relationship? It's a confirmatory research question. Your answer will be close, it will be yes or no. It's a close-ended. But if you say, how does anxiety influence the ability to forgive? You have made your research question an open-ended. It's more of an exploratory research question. So you have to know the type of research question that you have to use. For qualitative, you have to have your research question should be exploratory in nature. Under the qualitative research question, we have two main types. We have ontological research question and epistemological research question. So ontological research question, you are capturing participant reality. You want to really capture the lived experience of participants. You want to capture their reality. Because of that, it's called ontological research question. Epistemological research question is more about, epistemology is more about the study of knowledge. So you want to really understand the phenomenon. A research question that's focused on understanding the phenomenon that you want to focus on or that you want to study. It's all about the epistemological research question. These are just examples for you to understand. So the ontological research question, as I said, you want to capture the participant reality. And example is, what is the nature of something? Or what are the lived experiences of maybe a person student who are bullied? What is the lived experience of students who are bullied? So this means that you identify students who are bullied, and they will give you information, tell you their stories about the experience of being bullied, right? So this is more of capturing the reality of participants. So when you are analyzing the data, you are trying to not put in this is even where you have to bracket your influence, because you want to present to people what participant feels, what participant thinks about, what participants see, perception of participants. So these are some of the coding strategies that you can use. You can use attribute coding, emotion coding, you want to capture participant emotion. In vivo coding, you want to really capture from their own words. You want to capture, you want to quote them. In vivo means by a direct quote from participant to use it as a code. And we have narrative coding, process coding. I'm going to talk about it when we move to the next slide. And let's move to the epistemological research question. You want to really you want to understand a phenomenon. And the question, one of the question is, how does something, or what does it mean to be bullied? What does it mean to be bullied? This one, you want people to understand bullying. You understand? So you are not only capturing the reality, but you want people to really understand what it means to be bullied, right? So because of that, it's more of epistemological research question. And, for that kind of research question, you can use descriptive coding, you can use evaluation coding, and you can use narrative coding and other things. I'm going to talk about that. So your research question should influence what coding strategy you have to use. And also you can use more than one coding strategy for your study. So, and also for this presentation, you might not be able to capture or understand the coding methods very well. I think the book will give you more information, and it gives you an examples too for you to understand. So let me break here so that I find out whether you guys have questions, because I don't want to go on, and then you are not getting more benefiting from my presentation. So let me give you the chance to ask questions. Any question for me?
I think you'll have to unmute folks.
Okay, let me unmute everybody. Any question for me?
I just have a comment.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking at emotion coding. So this is probably an area where a researcher's experience could really bias the interpretation of emotion coding, because I may have a perception that's different.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be a strategy to bracket my emotional reaction to someone, the participant's emotional reaction? And I see you say here from participant standpoint and from researcher standpoint. So do we state that in our research work, basically?
Yeah, I think that you have to let your audience or readers know what standpoint are you presenting that information. Let's say the participant are expressing, a person who has been bullied are expressing their emotion and everything, and then maybe they talk some of the things that they say are related to hopelessness. Are they expressing hopelessness, or is your interpretation that led to you to code it as hopelessness? You see the difference? So
Yes.
somebody can feel hopelessness, but they are not aware that, it's a feeling of hopelessness. But based on the information that they are presenting to you, so, oh, I think no, they are making reference to the hopelessness. So always you have to see what the information is. Is that your interpretation, or is that the reality of participant? Are you portraying participant reality, or are you interpreting participant reality? They are two different. So you always have to be aware about concerning the standpoint, where exactly you stand, whether based on your research question, do you want to really capture their reality, or do you want to go beyond not just only capturing their reality, but trying to understand, trying to bring out the meaning behind their reality? You see that? So you can have a research question that can accomplish both. Your research question can be both ontological and epistemological, so it can be both. So you always have to be aware, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to communicate that to people and say, okay, this is how I came up with my code. I came up with anxiety, I came up with denial, and they tell you, okay, how did you get to the denial? Oh, they say, oh, because of what participants said. This is because of this. That's why I came up with the word denial. So always be aware about, that's why you always have to be aware about your influence, your biases. So let's say maybe one of your family members has been bullied. So that's why you want to do your research in bullying. So this means that you already have a preconceived information, or you have your own biases. So how do you make sure that you bracket that bias as you do a research as a researcher, so that you will not be, your past experience will not influence how you interpret the data?
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And another way of, sometimes if you find it very difficult to bracket your biases, you have to let readers know. This is the reason why maybe I focus on this topic. Based on my past experience, when I was in school, I was bullied. That's why I'm focusing on this topic, so that people, readers, will put your interpretation in context. They said, okay, I think because he was bullied, that's why he was interpreting it this way. So it helps readers to know why you arrived at this kind of findings. So great question. Thank you for the question. Any other question for me?
There is a question pertaining to the use of in vivo and how it would work for online students who can't access it on campus. Do you know about online student access to the software?
For qualitative software, you have to buy it if you are online. The school only provides it when you are on campus to use. It's not like SPSS where you can have access to it. So I always advise students that maybe months before you even collect data, you can start, you can get I think you can get a free 30-day use. When you go to their website, they can, you can get access to for a certain amount of time for you to just familiarize yourself with the software. And when you are ready, then you buy it. You buy it for about maybe a month or so for you to use for analysis. So the school doesn't provide it for online students. You have to be there to use it. Okay. So
there is another question.
Uh-huh.
Another question quickly. Dr. Du, what do you think about having another coder just to ensure the researchers are bracketed enough?
Yes, this is another, so it's a way of making your information, your findings credible. You give the code to somebody to look at it and see what the person thinks about the code. And then the person will give you, we call it, do we call it member checking? I have to check again, because member checking is another way of looking at it. Like member checking is giving the findings to the participant for them to look and see what they think about it, whether it best reflects what the information they gave you. So it's always good for you to give it to another researcher to look at it and give you feedback, so that you be you make sure that you are being a little bit objective. Although when it comes to qualitative analysis, the subjectivity is paramount. Okay, so this as the time is running out, so I will not be able to go into specifics concerning the coding method, but I think when you get the access to the book, you'll love it. It gives you all the information about the coding method, in vivo coding. I've just given you an example, value coding. Narrative coding is used when you are doing a narration, you are using a narrative approach. And let's move on to the next slide because the time is running out. So we have descriptive coding. You are just describing the data that you have, so an example is maybe you can describe a church, or you can describe a house, or the environment that you see as a researcher, especially when you are doing ethnography. You are there, you will see what you see, you have to describe it, and after describing, you can use descriptive coding to do the coding. Evaluative coding is more of evaluating, assigning judgment. So let's say there's a program, and then program for a particular participant, and you want to find out from the participant what do they think about the program. And some of them said, oh, this program was foreign to me because it didn't, I didn't understand why they have to organize the program to me. They didn't really assess my needs. So they have passed judgment, So when you want to find out participant perception about a program, you can use evaluative coding or evaluation coding. Magnitude coding is to really assess the intensity or the frequency of a phenomenon or a concept. So let's say the person is afraid, and then based on the information, you can even rate it as, okay, the person is highly afraid, or moderately, or something like that. So you attach a magnitude, you attach the intensity to the information that you are taking from participants. And also you can even use the magnitude coding with the process coding, because the process coding focus on the behavior or observable behavior of participants. So maybe when they are reflecting, how many times are they reflecting? So you can also use magnitude coding to measure the intensity of the reflection, or if they are walking, or if they are thinking, if they are doing something. So always think about how you can combine two or more coding method for you to use to do that. So as I said, the book will give you more information. So let's move on to the next one. After you have done the first cycle coding, what do you have to do next? You just have to sort them. How do you sort them? Look at the relationship between the groups. The relationship between the codes. So based on the relationship, you can ask yourself, a group of code making reference to a specific concept? If they are making reference to a specific concept, you can group them together and name that, give the name to that kind of code. So you are just sorting them based on the relationship they have, and also sometimes based on the frequency, how many times did you assign a specific code to a data. So if you assign the specific code to a data many times, this means that participants were talking about that issue a lot. So you can make that code a category and try to find out how that code, the relationship of that code to another code and everything. So this is more of sorting, trying to bring them together. But as you are sorting, think about your research question, because at the end of the day, you have to address your research question. So think about when you put them together, some of the code together, and you generate themes and generate categories. Are they helping you to address your research question? Because that's the essence of you doing this research. If your code cannot, or the teams cannot address your research question, it's a waste of time. So always make sure that the labels that you are giving to the codes, the labels that you are giving to the categories, they are all helping you to address your research question. And those who are doing a granite theory, you can, you have to do the second cycle coding. If you are not doing granite theory, you don't have to worry about this. Granite theory, you have to do the second cycle coding. It's where you use a pattern coding, focus coding, agile coding, and theoretical coding. Because of time, I can't go through all of them, but you can book an appointment with us and we can meet and have a discussion if you are using granite theory, just to get an idea. And then also the book gives a lot of information concerning this, so concerning the second cycle coding. So after everything, what do you have to do? You have to think about chapter 4, your findings. You have to present your findings. What do people expect from you? If I'm reading your chapter 4 for qualitative analysis or your findings, what I expect from you is for you to give me the background information about participants. You can give the background information about a group participant or individual participant. Why do you have to do that? So that I will be able to understand their background and help me to understand the information participant presented to you. Knowing your background is so important. It helps you to put the information that you are giving me in context. So you want readers to know the background of participant is so important. The next one is after presenting the background of participant, you have to tell readers about the coding strategy that you use. What kind of code strategy? Maybe you use in vivo, you use process coding, you use magnetic coding. Let people know about the coding strategy that you use and tell them about a number of codes that you identify. Are they 20? Are they 30? Are they 40? What about the categories? What kind of categories did you identify? Or what about the themes that you identify? Sometimes you can only reach categories and you don't have to go further to develop themes. It depends on your research question. So themes, you talk about all the themes, the codes, and the categories that you identify. And the next step is for you to systematically present each of the themes, or if it's categories, each of the categories. So you present each of them, you describe what each of the categories stands for, the meaning of the category, you quote participants to support their theme. This is so important. You have to go back and look at your data and see which part of the data can I quote or to support the theme, because you want to make sure that people understand, or you want to make sure that people know that you are not making things up. You didn't just develop the themes. The themes should be linked with the data that you have. So when you are presenting, you always have to make sure that you talk about the data, or you quote participants to support the theme that you have described. So after that, what you have to do, you have to connect the findings or the themes to the research question, because at the end of the day, you have to address the research question. How does the theme that you have identified address the research question? It's so important. You have to do that. And then after everything, you have to have, I call it a summary table. A summary table is just a table that states the specific theme or category and also a brief information to explain the theme. Just brief, 3 or 4 or 5 words just to explain the theme, or a sentence just to explain the theme, and a short information from the data to really support the theme. What is the essence? What is the essence of doing this? The essence of doing this is to help readers to get a brief reference of the information that you have already presented. So readers have already read a lot of information. They have read a lot of information about the themes and this the themes and the evidence that you are using to support. They just want you to give a snapshot so that they can make a quick reference about, okay, this is the theme and this is the meaning of the theme, this is the quote. So it's like a summary table, summarizing on what you have already talked about. And the next one that you have to think about is presenting your findings. Is very, very important. Presenting the relationship between the themes. What is the relationship between the themes? It's very, very important for you to think about it. And also you can develop a diagram just to help you to establish the relationship between the themes. So in case you find out there's a relationship between the themes, you can design a diagram, and I have links here to help you to download free software for you to design diagrams for you to represent. So this is all about writing chapter 4. Because the time is limited, I've gone beyond my time. So I wanted to talk about one example of presenting your data. So if you can give me about maybe 5 to 6 minutes, that would be great. Or let me open the let me open this one so that if you have any question for me, you can. Do you have any questions so far? I don't want to keep on going and then you are not clear about anything. So do you have any question for me? Okay. So if you don't have any question, then I can go ahead and talk about this very, very quick. So this is one of the examples of how you can, analyze your data. This is one example. This one is called a manual coding because I use the Microsoft Word to do that. So one of the ways that you can do this, there are many ways of analyzing data. One of the ways is to first, you have to look at your research question. So you look at your research question and assign labels. So let me show you this very quick. So you look at your research question. So if your research question is what are the initial needs of participants, so you assign a label for it, and that label I call it anchor code. It's anchor code because you are assigning a label to represent your research question, and then you can do the same thing for the second research question. So based on a research question, you assign a label. What the second research question? What are the activities in the club that may have contributed to the abilities and benefit gain? So I code it as activities. So this one is called anchor code because you are just coding your research question to help you to organize your data, how you're going to code. So the next step is to think about, okay, after you have done the anchor code, identify the specific coding strategy that you think based on your research question that you think that can help you to address your research question. So identify about 6 coding strategies, the structure coding, magnitude coding, and everything, about 6, and I use it to do the analysis. And then, as you can see here, whenever I code a statement, I always start with the anchor code. Why do I do that? start with the anchor code because I want to organize it based on the research question. So if you can see the research question, first research question is initial needs. So if I want to code this statement, I start with initial needs and then bring the code lack of interest in academic work. The lack of interest in academic work is a code, right? But the initial needs will help me to know that, oh, the lack of interest in academic work is addressing this research question. So that's why you always have to bring the anchor code first before you type the main code that you are using to label the statement. So as we can see here, this code is related to, the second code is related to the activities, reaching out to students in need. So the reaching out to students in need is a code, right? But I always start with the anchor code, which is the code I gave to the research question, so that at the end of the day, I'll be able to organize the data based on the anchor code, so that I organize it so that I'll be able to address my research question. So at the end of the day, I compiled all the list of the initial codes, and I have about 110 statements related to the code that was coded. And then I group them based on the anchor code, based on the research question. So I group them based on the abilities, the research question related to abilities. So I group them based on the research question. And then after grouping them, what did I do? I tally the frequency. I just counted the number of codes I gave to a number of statements I gave to the specific code. So reaching out to others, I only coded one statement as reaching out to others. But for sense of confidence, I coded two statements. So you just count the number of code related to the statement that you did. So you can see here, activity reaching out to students in need. I coded 10 statements for that. So you just have to tell you the frequencies. That will give you an idea about how to categorize them. So based on that, I grouped them. Let me show you. So after telling them, you have to group, you have to categorize them. So under the research question, I do the various categories, and I try to identify that the main category is the sense of confidence, and it's addressing the research question, which is focused on ability. So you can do the same thing with this one, the second research question. And then you are done. You have identified the code that will help you to address the research question. As I said, this is one of the many approaches of, going by analyzing your data. You first start with labeling the research question, then you identify the coding strategy that you have to use, and when you are coding, you always start with the anchor code so that it will help you to organize your code based on your research question. So this is what I have for you today, and thank you so much for your time. And if you need any further clarification, you can contact me through NCADE, and I'll be happy to meet you and have a discussion. I hope you learned a lot from this. So thank you so much, and thank you for also taking some time, extra time to listen to me. I really appreciate you. And do you have any question for me? I don't want to go without addressing your question. So let me open that in case you have a question for me. I can unmute. Do you have any question for me?
Dr. Adu?
Yes. Yeah, Magno. Yes.
How are you?
I'm doing great,
Yeah,
and you?
I'm doing well. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I just wanted to thank you for a wonderful presentation. Very informative.
You're welcome.
Very rich. So I just wanted to thank you for that as well. I really like your idea of your suggestion of making sure that we purchase the book, we get familiar with the book, because I think that is very important prior to addressing any of the research questions that we have encountered for our dissertation. So thank you again.
You're welcome, and thank you for the compliment.
Dr. Adu, this is Mariam. I have one question.
Hello, Mariam.
Thank you so much again for the wonderful presentation.
You're welcome.
I wanted to see, when do you think is the, best time to start reading it?
I think that, if you know that you're going to use qualitative approach, I think that you can go ahead and buy the book and familiarize yourself with the approaches. As I said, it's about 32 approaches, so you have to identify about 2 or 3, and then they have examples, and then also think about the instrument. I'm talking about the software that you might use, and start familiarizing. You don't have to wait. Based on my experience, what I realized is that students wait after you have collected the data now, and then they are thinking about how they want to analyze the data. You have to, start right now so that it will be very easy for you, because data analysis takes a lot of time. Sometimes you have to, after analyzing the data or during the data analysis, you have to take some time out and time out. We call it incubation period, by not thinking about how you analyze your data, and then come back again and look at it and with fresh ideas and everything. So it takes some time. So I always advise students to get all the needed resources as soon as possible before even you start, doing your interviews.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Dr. Adu?
Yes.
Dean Hartman, I have a quick question. How do we work with, at what point can we work with a methodology expert such as yourself, whether it's on the qualitative side or the quantitative side?
I think any stage, but I recommend that during the time when you are developing your topic. I'm talking about when you are developing your proposal. That's the right time for you to see us, because in case we have any kind of suggestions, you can make the necessary changes before you go and collect data. And after you have collected the data, you can also come and see us to help. We'll be able to help you to analyze your data. We don't analyze it for you, but we guide you as you analyze your data, and also help you to think about how to report your findings.
So I'm in that stage right now. And, if I would like to schedule time, would I be able to request to work with you, or do I work with whoever that's available to work with?
The first step is to email NCAID and request for methodology assistance, and then one of the methodology experts will contact you, and then we book an appointment with you and have a discussion concerning your study.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other question for me?
Thank you for your time, Dr. Abdu.
You're welcome. Okay, so
Dr. Abdu, this is Shirley. How are you?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm good. Question for you. I'm doing a grounded theory methodology. So it's concurrent, collecting data and analyzing at the same time. Any thoughts about that?
Can you repeat what you said? I didn't hear the last part.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm doing a grounded theory methodology, and so I will be collecting my data and analyzing concurrently. I just wanted to know, do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh, I think that is the best approach, because when you are doing grounded theory, sometimes, most of the time, you have to go back to participants to collect more information from them based on the new ideas that you have gotten, based on the analysis that you are doing. So we, one of the books, Shama's book, they recommend that you always have to sometimes go back to participants and make sure that the information that the findings reflect what they are telling you. So it's always good for you to do it concurrently, do it at the same time. Analyze your data, go back and seek for clarification, do the analysis again. As you are doing it, you are developing a theory to reflect the information that they are giving you.
Thank you. I have one more question, and that's about the software. Have you had experience with the various types of software, and which one do you think is probably more user-friendly?
I think either In Vivo or Atlas TI. Yeah, any of them.
Here's another software system. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's another software system from Australia that I use once, Leximancer. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, I'm not really familiar. You know, there are a lot of softwares. So what I always tell students is try them out and choose the one that you think is the best for your data and also best for you to understand how to use it. So if you think that that software is going to help you a lot, I think you have to stick by that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I just want to say hi to Anna and Leanne, my dissertation advisees. So hi, Anna and Leanne.
Hi, Dr. Adu.
Hi. Okay. So I'll get back to you. You know, I saw your email, so I'll get back to you. So thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.